Welcome to episode 2. Today we have a Centaur's Life, a very slice of life anime. What I mean by that is that they go into some very minute details at times and things tend to get over explained. My expectations were very low going in, but it did exceed my expectations at times. We have Hime, our main character, Nozomi, a winged person, Kyoko, a sheep/ram person, the class president who will be referred to as the president, and their families. Episode 1 starts with a big sloppy lesbian kiss. Someone added onto the script with a pencil and this dummy followed it like nothing had happened. This living piece of toast gets kicked so hard I feel like his head should have exploded. The teacher says, "Don't forget my foie gras," and somehow they know that was bribery to get him the part in the play. The whole anime is monster girls living life. Hime gets a nice looking dress but then gets put down and called fat. They add some extra support memes to compensate for Hime being half a fucking horse and then the play starts. This anime happens very fast. I'm guessing Evil Queen keeping her daughter locked away from a love she doesn't agree with is the story here. The stage falls and Hime does some horse parkour to rescue Nozomi and gets a kiss on the cheek. The intro then plays, which confused me because I was stoned out of my mind. Evolution works differently in the anime. Basically we have mer people, pretty self-explanatory, goat people, cat people sometimes fall under this category. It's kind of a gray area, bird and dragon people, and centaurs. There used to be a lot of discrimination in times of war, because of course there was. Now there are a bunch of bullshit pussy laws to prevent that kind of hate. Hime almost ruins this poor old man's car and he's rightfully angry. They finish a marathon or something? I don't remember. Episode 2. This anime has the potential to be very good because it sets up all these interesting ideas, but just leaves them like that, as ideas. Why the fuck do centaurs sit in booths like this? That has to be the worst and most uncomfortable way to sit in a booth. Why even pick a booth? You could just pick like a table. Something. Hime is on the cover of a fashion magazine. Some creep is blackmailing Nozomi about it because students aren't allowed to work, and they make her go play dress up like a doll. The blackmailing goes on for way too long, and Hime thinks they found out that she has been sneaking in a few extra 100 calories. Turns out the modeling was a one-time thing, and she didn't even get paid for it. The blackmailer also has a part-time job. Trying to get dressed as a centaur seems like a nightmare. They visit a merpeople school. I'm curious about how these merpeople work. They don't need to be in the water to live, but some of them live in the ocean, so they can breathe underwater. How do they stand up in such shallow water? You know what? It doesn't matter. We are here for the centaurs. There is so much happening, but nothing is really going on. Their class gets threatened and stays quiet. Homegirl then gets roasted. Complimented? I don't know how to take that, but either way, damn it, she just wants to walk. Episode 3. Hime would make a great cuddler, and she's reading children books to her cousin. The book casually throws in some propaganda by saying they lived a long democratic lifestyle. Come on, man, don't implant those ideas into the youth. If a kid wants to grow up and forms the opinion that I want to live a short communist lifestyle, I say let them. Hime's mom is teaching someone about short selling like a piece of shit. They go for a walk and everyone just stops and starts talking in the middle of the street. The cousin hogs Hime. Two girls kiss on the cheek to prove they can. And then they explain that some girls like to kiss on the mouth or some weird shit. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen this episode. I'm going off notes. They play in a fountain and say bye, go home and shower, and the cousin smells Hime in a weird way. She then asks if she can make milk. The show gets a little weird too. They have centaur cars as well. He turns into a demon and then she magic girl pretty horns him. What the fuck does that statement mean? It's an in-universe show, thank fuck. The president leaves 3 children alone with a baby, like nothing will go wrong, and the kids say their dad should just steal money from offerings at temples, but the president says it's wrong because that money belongs to the gods. But it goes to the temple, doesn't it? She lets them throw a party and then a kid collapses. They overplay it or something? I don't know. The president forces a vote on something and we get some useless background info. She is literally doing the minimum amount of work to get more family time. Respect. Kids are still playing, there's a lot of shoes in the front, and everyone goes home. Now, maybe it's where I grew up, but why does she just let them all go home alone? I mean, they are in a group, but still. There's some quick math, and it's implied that ghosts are real, and one of the kids was a ghost or something. Either way, I'm assuming ghosts are a thing in this anime from here on out. For a show called A Centaur's Life, they spend a lot of time on non-centaurs. Episode 4. Some angel guy tries to give Hime a note on the subway, and she responds by running away. Kyoko and Nozomi ask her about it all day, and she avoids the question like the plague. Eventually, she spills she's scared about dating and things getting sexy. When she was a kid, they went on a field trip, and they were looking at some cattle when a boy said, "I wonder if yours looks like that. I bet you'll get boobies too." Which, I mean, kinda true. Because of this, they decide to compare pussies. Nozomi goes first, and they get so close that, quote, "Your breath is tickling me." Like, they just go down and take a massive whiff with how close they got. They then sexually assault Kyoko by making her show hers, which is hairier than expected. When checking Hime, they also get up close and personal, and Nozomi slaps her ass at the end. Because of the kitty show and tell, Hime has the confidence to take the letter the next day. She reads it, and we find out that this guy has no letter game. Nozomi is an idiot, so they get her to study. It's a kinky study session that she isn't taking seriously until they explain that if she flunks, she will not be in their class anymore. A study montage commences. Shortly thereafter, she sees a UFO. Then Alex Jones infiltrates the show. UFOs come from the Antarcticans. It's Hollow Earth. The lizard people that make the government turn the frogs gay live there. Nozomi lets Hime walk right into a pole, and we see helicopters and shit going around. Almost like the government is covering it up. The alien lizard people are rising up. Then an actual lizard person joins their class from Antarctica. For an Antarctican, she speaks pretty perfect Japanese. Yeah, a lizard person is a part of the show now. Deal with it. Episode 5. Nope. It was not a gag. She is really a part of the show. She'll be Q from here on out. She boops her snoot, and then Q's vagina face makes Hime collapse. The thunder from Hime hitting the floor makes this government guy come sprinting in like someone tried to assassinate a world leader. Hime wakes up and gets called racist. She's really just scared because of a movie she seen when she was like 5. Why would her parents let her watch a movie like this at such a young age? A snake eats a person whole. That's like some horror story you'd hear from an Amazonian tribe. Of course that would terrify a kid. They try to convince Hime to rewatch the movie, and it's revealed that was her trying to smile. Her 2 classmates laugh evilly about carrying Hime to the nurse's office, and then they hit up the movie club. They really just cut class to watch a horror movie. Hime and Q cuddle because the movie is too spooky, and then Q explains the differences between her and the monster. Then there's a cute smile. Q gets questioned about various conspiracies as if she would admit to them. They ask her super general questions about her culture and shit, which is kind of boring. They have good world building, but it seems out of place because they are really just talking about it. It's shown on screen, but only being talked about, if that makes sense. Antarctica sinks a ship, and Q thinks that everyone will hate her, but it's all good. It was an American ship, which I could understand why the Japanese would be indifferent over one American ship. Q has armed guards following her at all times, ready to execute students at a moment's notice. They go clothes shopping, get ice cream, and watch a movie, none of which I care about. Episode 6. Hime sleeps like a rock, and we get way too much detail on how centaurs use the restroom. Hime doesn't like going at school because there is no steppy step, and obviously it's not the same without it. So far in the show, we have heard about how everywhere needs to accommodate all body types, but nobody really seems happy about having to accommodate centaurs. They all seem kind of pissed about it. Like, it makes sense, honestly. Imagine having to make your shop fucking horse accessible. They went to pick a hairstyle for Hime, but short hair is ruled out because her cousin roasted the shit out of her before. Hime gets way too excited that someone else has similar struggles to hers. Hime is a little kid mentally, honestly. They ask Q if she could eat while they're eating lunch. You stupid bitch! Red hair on a Japanese centaur is rare. You're welcome for that useless info. Hime's ancestor got kidnapped and rescued by her siblings after a while, then everyone who was born after had red hair, I guess? Makes sense. The story of that rescue would make a way better anime. Kyoko is a great secretary for her father. His publisher gets way too excited over the fact that he's talking to a high school girl. Kyoko is a great journalist and got comments that her father couldn't. She catches the president going in for a fake curse removal. She scams this old lady by removing the curse. The president's dad sucks at painting and can't make a living doing what he loves. The president gets weird and talks about some guy who painted his daughter getting burned alive, which is kinda metal. She spits some facts and says he should paint what he wants regardless of the hate he gets, even if it's from his own children. She thinks painting is the only thing that will make him happy, so he should neglect his kids. But the two aren't really comparable. One you need to keep alive, and one is like a hobby he really enjoys. Like Ron Swanson once said,
"Never half-ass 2 things. Whole-ass 1 thing."
There's an American presidential election, and it reports that a Democratic communist won. What? The characters contemplate their futures at the end or something, I don't know. Episode 7. The president's little siblings call Q a dinosaur and they fuck with her like a drill sergeant. Do big groups of people really get together and hang out like this frequently? Because I just work, edit, and do this. And I'm obviously the normal one here, so that makes them weird. Again, getting dressed as a centaur looks like a damn nightmare, and Q roasts them by saying they have no tits, right after they say the same thing about her. They force Q into the water and she fucking dies. Hime's cousin finds a baby Q, and we see that mer people are extra as fuck. While swimming, Hime says, be careful putting your front legs on the shallow part of the water, otherwise you might crack a hoof. And holy fuck, that sounds like it would hurt. They all play cutely and they carry the kids home, which makes Hime tired. Some guy comes demanding that they meet at the school at night and tell scary stories. He's playing 4D chess and decides it's less sus to ask one girl out here alone, so he gets like 6 girls out here alone. He gets kicked like he's in an action movie and he's fine. He has a creepy amount of knowledge about the girl he likes and they set the mood and the stories begin. Hime, of course, is a little bitch. They get into actually interesting topics of conversation such as the origins of superstition and how although different cultures evolved in different environments, and although their superstitions may be a little different, they do all still share similarities in the fact that there is the fear of something negative that could happen from a small action or lack of action. They then get into how most of the ghosts and apparitions we see are ones that are already part of our consciousness, and we don't manifest stuff that we have no knowledge of, providing some cushion for the disproving of ghost sightings. This guy then sees this thing walking around and just thinks, what? An Amalocurus? Who the fuck just walks around, sees this, and thinks, what? An Amalocurus? He says it didn't exist in his consciousness, but I disagree. He had knowledge of it beforehand, just not to the full extent. So it's possible that his mind took something that he already had knowledge of and changed it in a way that would invoke a fear response. Date girl gets embarrassed after asking if anyone would like to go with her to the restroom. The top comment on this episode is amazing. Come like water. So wise. Episode 8. Hime has some mad archery talent. Or so she makes us think. White-haired chick, whose name I forgot so I'll be calling her Siri, shoots past Hime and gets mad. Hime gets mad back and makes a good point about weapon safety. Siri really wants a rivalry and throws mad shade. They come up with a way for Siri to relax. I'm calling it early, but it's drugs, right? Just tons and tons of horse tranquilizer. Drugs. You think it'll be okay to do that? It'll be fine. I guess they used archery to marry off centaur children? The tournament starts and Hime makes a bet with Siri. If Siri wins, she gets to take Hime on a date, I guess. Apparently she wins because we see Hime showing up late for a date right after. These mer guys get way too excited over looking at a clothed woman when the girls there all walk around with their boobies out. God is against the sin of man and helps us keep our souls clean by obstructing the view of their sinful ways with his holy light. But it's night there. Why is there still light? They put a whole lot of pressure on this one song right before this chick performs. Singing in anime is usually bad, and this is no different. She actually gets rejected because the song was so bad. No, I'm fucking with you. Apparently it's a fake god, and he just kind of sits there and lets them get away. Old guy calls it a robot because he knows that somehow. It's basically that one episode of Family Guy, but done with a bigger fish. Surprise, it really is a robot sent by the Antarcticans. There is definitely some bigger conspiracy going on here, but I can't be fucked looking into it. The president has an internal debate between logic and greed, and the heathen picks greed. Her little sister has a pretty realistic imaginary friend as well. Possibly a ghost. Episode 9. Of course the French are frogs. There's this famous froggy fuck and he's going to the high school to speak. He meets this old guy and the old guy makes him remove his gloves before shaking hands as a good show of faith. The frog guy is an absolute beast. He's a green forearms from Ben 10. They take this guy's security seriously. There's a lot happening here. Basically, there is an amphibian rebellion against the mammalian people coming from some of the amphibian population. Another frog dude goes on a monologue about world domination like Frank Amadeo, and main frog guy thinks that that line of thinking will be what gets them destroyed. Eventually he arrives at the school and he burns his tongue. It's wartime. There are bombings in the cities and executions in the streets. Soldiers have quotas for how many people they need to execute. This boy gets lucky and they hit it right before they get to him, so they send him to a concentration camp instead. Everyone there is suffering from malnutrition and takes on a ghoulish appearance. They beat him and threaten him with death in order to get him to work. They speak of others as inferior species, similar to how the paparazzi was in World War II. Due to the high-stress environment, lack of food, sleep, and shelter, some of the prisoners start to instigate fights among themselves. The boy, having a good heart, doesn't want them to fight and tries to stop it. He gets lectured by Glasses here, who sits next to him like L and talks to him about discrimination. It's quite the lecture while someone is getting beat in the background. Eventually, he gets to the point where he is physically and mentally unable to work, so a soldier takes him around back to punish him. Plot twist. The soldier shows some compassion by giving him food and faking the beating, explaining that he wants him to live because he is a good guy and the world needs good guys. The camp gets rushed by the Liberation Army, I'm assuming the equivalent of the Alliance. In the chaos, they somehow hang the Centaur soldier and want to hang the kid too, because he got food from him. He runs into the arms of a soldier who protects him. The soldier realizes how skinny the kid is and offers him some chocolate. It was the old guy meeting with the frog guy. It explains why he truly feels no discrimination towards Froggy at all. He's still genuinely the same good guy he was as a kid. Okay, where the fuck did that arc come from? That was genuinely a really good arc, and it just kind of came out of nowhere for such a minor character. What the fuck? Episode 10. This is a two-part episode compared to the others. They stalk Q while she is on a date, and as predicted by Kyoko, the guy arrives 15 minutes early. Hime imagines what their sex would look like, a reasonable thing to ponder. Q has literally every single organization looking at her, and it's just another Tuesday to them. Her date goes on about contemporary art and its origins, how the things we have in the modern day are taken for granted and used to be considered rarities. It fascinated me more than it should have. Still stalking her, they roast her date venue choices and they have some boring small talk about the art. The president is caught on a date and gets embarrassed. Now inside when they were following them, they were keeping a safe distance, but here they were following way too close and definitely would have been caught. I mean, Hime doesn't really walk that quietly. They all think they were walking to a sex hotel, but they walk past it, to everyone's relief. Don't judge her promiscuity. She's a foreigner and a different species. It kind of makes sense that she would want to experiment, to be honest. They finish their date at a library, and the next day they ask her about it. She knew they were following her the whole time. Hime gave it away. The president and her date have a deal. The triplets are so chill with swapping out. This is basically a recap of the first half, but from a different perspective. The dad feels stuck in life, wanting to make money off of his art, but not being able to, but also not wanting to give it up. The president's date buys the triplets some chocolate, and they talk about her dad some more. She just wants his paintings to be successful because that'll make him happy. There's like 4 or 5 minutes of them just talking, and there's no real substance. They're just kind of reiterate the same thing. She realizes she can't make him successful, but can still support him. Just a reminder that last episode we were in a concentration camp, by the way. Episode 11. It opens with the president letting the triplets play outside with the baby alone, and one of them says something low-key terrifying. What kind of fucking good boy is this? He kidnaps the baby and puts her with the rest of his dolls. Another incident, they lost a baby, but some people found her. They yell, "Thieves!" and run up to them, and the people mess with them, but they seem chill. Hime goes on a walk with her cousin, and they go over different flowers. They explain that everything has a different name, and it's some boring bullshit. Her cousin teaches that to other kids, and eventually we finish this botany lesson. Thank fuck. The gardeners came and gardened, and the kid gets big mad. The cousin gives the teacher an attitude, and we get a shape lesson too. The baby wants to get dressed on her own, so they do some tail training. We learn about how tails and clothes work. The triplets explain that the president isn't important because of teachers. She adds, and dad too, which gives them something to think about for some reason. They then go on a search to find someone prettier than the president, which leads them to roasting everybody. These kids have no filter whatsoever. They meet up with Hime and the gang, and Hime casually picks up a little centaur in one hand and one of the triplets in the other. They can't find anyone prettier and give up. Episode 12. Finally. This anime was boring as fuck. They're a good slice of lives, but this was way too slice of life. It covers most boring parts, but also some pretty interesting ones. Either way, it definitely lives up to the name. What in the ever-loving fuck is this rat? Why does it have a witch hat? They are dungeoning and come across an enemy. Nozomi holds it back while Kyoko casts a spell in which she chokes the chicken and some censored blue cum comes out of its mouth. What? Magic is OP as hell, and a little later, Q finally does something other than dance. They talk shit while a slime sneaks up on them. Kyoko just dodges, not giving any kind of warning to the others. Then some hentai shit starts happening. Kyoko is very calm while her friends are being molested. The slime dissolves their clothes, but not their skin. Okay then. This giant bunny thing reminds me of Nicolas Cage for some reason. The final boss is the president, and she's a dominatrix. They call out her padded chest, and it defeats her. Cut back to the classroom, and we have a Smash tournament going on. It's actually an arm wrestling tournament, and the president is a beast. Q doesn't even try to win, and Hime better win because she picked up a centaur with one arm in the last episode. She throws, and everyone knows. She gets threatened to have her breasts fondled if she doesn't go again. Hime absolutely destroys her this time, and goes on to win the next one as well. Kyoko loses hers, and Nozomi wins a few. They get to the final 4, and Nozomi and the president are a pretty equal match. The president wins, and Hime and some rando are up next. The rando gets fucking slammed, which means it's now Hime versus the president. They start, and it doesn't even look like Hime is trying. Surprise, surprise, Hime wins. She doesn't want anyone to know how much she weighs, and she doesn't even know why they were arm wrestling. Just like me. And with that, the anime is over. Woo! Overall, I'd say this is a pigeon's life out of a centaur's life.